Hey everyone. This is the episode that most closely corresponds with the 10th anniversary of Watch Out for Fireballs. We're going to be talking about that a lot more during the dispatch this month, but I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everybody who supports us. No plugs or anything, just a big thank you. It blows my mind to think that there are people who were with us 10 years ago, Mega Man X, who are there listening to this episode. Those people who have been there with us the whole time, really do appreciate you. But we appreciate you regardless of when you came along. Are the people who've been with us for a long time, very special to me, including Gwen Static, who did the remix of the theme song for this 10th anniversary episode. So thank you, Gwen, and thanks everybody for listening, regardless of when you found us. And, here, as cheesy as it is, here is to 10 more. The 50-year-old novelty podcaster. Huzzah.
My name is Cole Ross, and you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is a platforming game developed and published by Sega for the Sega Genesis in 1992. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary. I got you this 10? I don't know what I like the non-traditional shitty.
Oh yeah.
Anniversary materials are very funny.
Here's the leather anniversary.
Here's
cool.
The roast anniversary.
I'll cherish this wallet forever. Yeah. 10 years of WoF, and it's appropriate to go back to do something retro for this.
Yeah. 10 years. We're going to be talking about that in the dispatch.
We are.
This upcoming. So when we put out the questions and stuff, like that'll be a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
A little indulgent this month. Decade. Mm-hmm. 1/4 of my life.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty wild.
I mean, a lot. I mean, 1/3 pretty much of mine.
Yeah. Check this out. In 2 years, WoF will have been part of my life longer than my dad was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does that
wild?
Does that make me your new dad?
Okay. It makes you my son.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The rules are complicated, but clean your fucking room, boy. Our large old son.
You can't make me.
Yeah, I'll get on a plane. I'll get on the first plane. I will get COVID to make you clean your room, boy. I think it's we're both the two tails trailing out of Miles's butthole for this. So
yep.
Yeah. My challenge for this episode.
Okay.
The other piece of you may have noticed a special intro for this episode, since it was the anniversary, and we commissioned our good friend Gwen. She's the composer of the Orb theme song to do a remix.
Yeah.
Intro, which has been a minute since we've done one of those, so there you go.
It has, and she did a very good job of making it extra Genesis-y for us.
Extremely Genesis-y. Impressive.
Yeah.
I was going to say my personal challenge, I had a little mild amount of anxiety about this episode because I didn't want to repeat all my points from the Sonic 3 episode.
Okay.
And then I realized 7 years ago or 8 years ago.
Right.
So I don't care. Like, I'm just going to say what I want to say.
what was I mean, our analysis has refined since then, I'm sure. What was the challenge?
No, well, just, I mean, not trying to repeat myself, because a lot of things that are
Oh.
true of Sonic 3 are true of this as well.
Yeah, it's just what a Sega Genesis Sonic game is. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and there are generalities and stuff about this that, like, my position on my thinking of this Sonic game has changed a little bit since then. But there are a lot of ways in which it remains the same.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to. But you know, if you listen to this back to back with that episode, at the very least, the audio quality will be a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
got that going for you.
So it'll be this the same cogent insights, I'm sure, but delivered through better microphones.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not familiar with Sonic, he is this attitudinous little hedgehog. He runs fast. He jumps. Sometimes he has his life partner Tails with him, who, based on the kitsune, he is a fox with two tails. Tails mild per hour. Because of his mild personality.
Yeah. He's just
tweets on the show.
He's just real chill. The story of the American team pitching that as the name for this character, designed by a Japanese member of the team, and them compromising, saying, okay, he's both miles per hour and tails. Just everything.
The thing, I had a real meme, like, let them fight moment when I was reading about that, because I was like, I don't think either of these names are particularly good. Like, I kind of hate this twerp. Like, I'm not big into Tails. He reminds me of Tails. Actually reminds me of, there's a Mr. Show sketch where it's like a psychologist being like, there are four voices inside you, you know, and it's on a subway, and it's like, you know, the motorcyclist, you know, the gang member, the sassy gay man, you know, the old woman, but the issue is, like, a bunch of them just back the other ones up. You know, so it's like you have a sassy gay man who backs him up all the way, and an old woman who agrees with everything he says. Like, it's just one voice inside you with a chorus, and that's what Tails is.
Yes, yeah,
you know? He's really simping, to use the internet parlance of last year.
Yeah. We're not sure.
He's a real Sonic simp.
He's a big fan of the American version. He's admired Sonic since he was born.
Does he have a different backstory in the Japanese version?
He just trips over him, like Sonic, you know, just kind of like lands his plane, and Tails is there, kind of like, you know, messing around, and like I guess Sonic just Tim Heideckers him, just like, you're my son now,
just messing around.
Yeah,
you get two tails and they're scrounging around. He's so this is the introduction of Tails.
Yes, yeah,
our Bubba here.
Yeah, and they work together, or alone, across West Side Island. They're trying to stop Dr. Robotnik. I'm convinced the only cool thing about Sonic now
is Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, Dr. Robotnik and his dipshit inventions. So I'm Robotnik pilled.
I am going to Jim Carrey's performance is probably why I'm going to watch Sonic 2, other than the fact that we can do it for work.
Of course.
But, you know, that was a real standout. The Dr. Eggman.
Yeah, but Dr. Robotnik is gathering Chaos Emeralds to try and power up his doomsday device, the Death Egg, and Sonic and Tails are trying to stop him.
Succeeding. So Sonic basics are worth talking about a little bit here, in case you've never played one of the old Sonic games, as we age out of our audience.
Yep.
The game's increasingly more likely. Sonic is a weird platformer. It controls much, you know, differently than any other platformer. The idea is Sonic can move at a very high speed, but you have to build momentum and keep it.
Yes.
By avoiding traps and environmental hazards and stuff.
Yeah.
This is my biggest, you know, bone to pick with Sonic.
Yeah.
I don't think these two modes work very well together. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't want to talk about it in every individual zone, because, like, this will be, once we get into the actual body of this episode, it's going to be a little quick moving. Yeah. Because it's pretty hard to be like, oh, at this part where there's the corkscrew turn with the moving platform and the spike that comes out, and the TV set with a ring, you know, tuned to Ring TV, like that will be a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
But there's an essential kind of tension, do I think, to Sonic games. that permeates this old genre.
And I am definitely warmer on this than you are. This was my this was my game growing up. We had an SNES, and I played and loved Super Mario World. I understand the Super Mario World is leagues better than this. But this still has a place in my heart, and it's kind of it's a really big part of the history of console games and platform games too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like, I have a theory about that. Like, when we start talking about that, I have a reasonable idea as to why you might be more into that.
Yeah,
and it's not like about your DNA or anything. It's like your eugenic
I was going to
idea.
say, are you going to accuse me of being the product of incest again?
Your parents are cousins, so that's my first guess. My second guess is that they're brother and sister. No. I it's not that.
Yeah. So
there are more basics we should get through before we get to that, though.
There are, yes. So as you go, the collectible in this, it's rings. They're these power rings that also act kind of like your hit point and your shield. So if you are carrying even one ring, you can take a hit. And Sonic drops all of his rings. He just scatters them everywhere. It's actually kind of comical.
Call me Mr. Butterfingers.
Yeah. And you have a small chance to, recover some of the rings before they fade, letting you take a hit again. You have a little bit of mercy invincibility as well. But if you are hit or touch a hazard when you're not carrying any rings, then you die. Then you just die.
Yeah. Cold, wet mud.
Yep.
It's worth it. I want to do a quick shout out to the port of this that is on the Switch. It has a mode which is fewer rings mode, which I engaged in the last half of the game. Not because it had save states as well.
Yeah,
I could have got through it, but just because just to not be frustrated, I set that up, and then you lose like half your rings, or like and it doesn't become a Xeno's paradox thing. It's rounded up. Like you can eventually become ringless.
Yeah.
But it just makes it you don't die in one hit or die in two hits. Automatically. You do die if you get crushed, or if you drown, or you fall into a pit. No amount of rings will save you from that potter's field.
Yes. Yeah. There are power-ups that return. Again, you bop open a TV or a computer monitor that's tuned to a particular channel, showing an image of the power-up.
Shoe Network.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of the biggest, most notable ones are the invincibility, which that's self-explanatory, and also an energy shield, which gives you another hit that you can take.
And they're also the shoe that lets you go faster. I wish these were placed a little bit more thoughtfully.
Yes.
Or maybe they are, and I just didn't know the levels well enough, which is, my thesis about this. But I tended to be very fast for very slow precision platforming parts, which did not help that much. But those are the three. And then you can also get booster packs of rings.
Yeah.
The big innovation here, other than Tails, is the spin dash technique. If you crouch and press the button, it's jump, but this is a one-button game, you'll spin in place and then you'll launch at speed. Since this is a game about momentum, being able to instantly get up to kind of medium momentum is really useful.
Yeah.
So allow you to kind of crest lips of things and go through loops and stuff. This is such a popular feature. Like, this has been backported into Sonic 1, which is through a bunch of ways. Like,
bizarre.
This should have been there.
Yeah,
it should have been there. Like, it's ridiculous not to have it. Like, not trying to Monday morning quarterback developers. It's just a really good idea.
It's a very good idea. Going back and playing Sonic 1 without this, it is a really different experience, because you have to backtrack. You have to go backwards in order to get a run up, in order to press down while you're moving forward to get into a spin like this, or even just to get the momentum that you need to clear some obstacles and stuff, which is a real strange way to play a platformer. Here, just being able to launch into it is a gigantic advantage. And lets them, design the stages smarter. Like the levels in this are just miles ahead of the original.
Yeah. I was surprised by actually how much I like this more than Sonic 3 when I played that. Like, I think the levels have more personality. I think the music is better. And I think it's probably just because I played it more when I was younger.
Yeah.
is the biggest part of it.
Yeah, I played a fair amount of both. I used to be a big Sonic 3 and Knuckles guy. I think that is still an impressive product, and it is aesthetically like really beautiful. Huge variety of space and stuff like that. This plays better. I like the levels in this game much, much more than Sonic 3, and the extended the whole extended verse there. And when I was a little kid, I was like, "Oh, there's a little friend that he has. I identify with Tails." And no, I'm just exaggerating that. The default mode is actually kind of a nightmare playing with Sonic and Tails. So you have Tails running around trailing behind you as this little AI. This would not be a problem if he also didn't try to attack enemies, often crumbling platforms beneath you or triggering the enemy's mercy invincibility. Yeah, so you just end up like flying through them into a hazard and stuff like that. I forgot to turn Tails off when I started my game, and I was like, I don't care if I'm 2 levels in. I'm going to go back and just run it as Sonic.
I'm going to go back and kill Sonic. And you know that much like the Flash, if you go back and turn that off, it's Sonic going so fast he goes back in time and kills Tails as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
You're making the option menu. It's all implied when you hit right.
I would have gone back and encouraged Tails in his painting.
Oh yeah, that's that's the more enlightened answer on what to do with Tails. And but he could actually paint with both his tails, like dip them into paint and paint 2 paintings at once.
Just a real fast son of a bitch.
Just really, really
had
quick.
A little stand down at the fair. Yeah.
If he was painting with both his tails at once, it would look like when hippos shit and they use their tails to like helicopter it for fun.
Yeah.
Hippos, like nature's fucking weirdos. The upside of having Tails with you is that sometimes it will time out to where you get a double hit on a boss.
Yes.
But yeah, generally not worth it. You can also play through the game as Tails.
And it's just the same.
Yeah, he plays identically.
Yeah.
He doesn't fly on command in this game. He just kind of does it every once in a while. Something they added later when we talked about so Sonic Chaos on the Game Gear. Probably never going to cover that. And then
if I played
Sonic
it, I can
3.
talk about it. Did you want to talk about Triple Trouble and Knack the Weasel?
I do. There's nothing I want to talk about less than Knack the Weasel. So there's some other big differences here in the stages. So you have zones and acts. Zones are kind of broad themings of levels. Acts are individual levels. Sonic 1 had 3 acts per zone. This one has 2, but they are bigger.
Yes. They are much larger, which is nice. So like going back and playing the original Sonic, I went and did a few stages of that. 3 stages is too much, actually, of these individual themes.
It ends up being like a big saving grace of this game in general, I think.
Yeah.
That like made it playable for me now is that it's real breezy. Even if you get annoyed by a level's gimmick, you're done with it real fast.
Yeah.
And moving on to something new. Because there's definitely it's not a linear path for me. In general, like I was tweeting about it. Like I feel like Sonic, the first couple levels of Sonic, I'm always like way into it, and then later there's like a hard zone.
Yeah.
Like you end up going to like the Aztec fuck off zone, and it's tough.
Yeah.
And that's usually when I'm like, I'm dying. I'm frustrated a little bit. This way, even once you get past that Aztec fuck off zone, the next level might be actually really cool.
Yes.
Past that, it's not a line. It's not like a pure degrade.
Yeah. It'll be the right mix. It'll still be harder than the stuff at the beginning, but it will have like a cool gimmick and a neat aesthetic, or maybe like an especially good bop playing in the background. Yeah.
Yes.
Sonic 2 is also where they really started designing around speed. Obviously, the momentum based play was there in the first game. What with the loop de loops and whatnot. But this, a big thing that they did was remove the speed cap on him. And set up,
there's still a speed cap on him. It's not like over the road truckers or whatever going backwards.
Sorry. I couldn't believe it. Just phased through reality.
Yeah,
he caused nuclear fission. He moves so goddamn fast.
That's a great idea for like a Sonic mod. There's no upper speed limit.
Yep. As he approaches C, he causes just a long string of singularities behind him as he blasts through stars.
Yeah. His tail as a baby is like in the moon. You see it like blinking. So the original, I mean, this is probably a good spot to talk about the level thing that I want to get off my chest.
Yeah.
About this. And I have a theory as to why your experience is probably different than this and probably corresponds to when people have different experiences about this. So Sonic games are weird to me as a platformer because you ping pong between 3 different modes, it feels like. There's like pinball mode when you are going fast and the game is allowing for it.
Yes.
You're going through loop-de-loops, you're going through slides and stuff like that. And this to me is like a pure joy. I like this more than I liked it in Sonic 3.
Yeah.
It was more impressive and more aesthetically fun to me.
I mean, there's a level designed around a chemical plant zone that is just like, here, take a look at this demonstration of how light and joyous this can be. Yeah.
I like that. There's an exploration mode where there's like secrets in the level. I think that this falls down because the best secrets you can get are limited to those power-ups.
Yes.
And it suffers compared to Super Mario World, which isn't fair. Because that's like a paragon of the genre. But it really does go to show that exploration and reward go hand in hand. It's something we talk a lot about in Bonfireside Chat. Like, exploring on its own is fun on its own.
Yeah.
But hunting for secret walls in a Sonic game for me was not fun when I knew I would get 10 rings at the end of it. As opposed to Mario World where I was getting another exit and like a whole other part of the overworld map or something.
This is something that they addressed in Sonic 3. If you remember the way that you got to one of the special zones, because there were the ones on checkpoints that would get you power-ups and stuff like that. They would be little mini games, but to actually get the emeralds, you had to go through the big rings. Those would be hidden in the world through false walls and up on high or very low places, things like that. So they would reward you with that. So you can tell that they acknowledge that was a little bit of the concern here. I agree. The lack of reward is a huge problem with exploration here.
And then the third thing is careful avoidance of traps and precision platforming. Like anytime there's a moving platform, like I find Sonic moves really weird when I'm not at full speed. Like your jump in this is weird. And stuff. And I end up having this experience of playing a Sonic game where I don't know how it wants me to play. It's hard for me to, at a glance, read the level design and understand which of those modes I'm supposed to be in. And the reason why I think that when people are like, oh yeah, no, it's about speed, like you're meant to be going fast the whole time, it's level knowledge, and level knowledge comes from repeated play.
Yes, which you will have the patience for if you're a small kid, and this is a game that you have available to you, like Cole from age 5 to 10, especially.
Exactly, or if you are just so in the pocket for the aesthetic that and the feel of it and the music that you just want to repeat it.
Yes.
So as that is the way that I played retro games as a kid. Like I fucking played Aero the Acrobat many times. Now, though, as an adult, like I'm much more often, even platformers that I absolutely love, like I will play once.
Yeah.
I played through Shovel Knight, I think, twice, and that's the exception. But I played through like Hollow Knight once. I played through the Shovel Knight expansions once, even though I love them. So I don't have that map knowledge. And I think that the aesthetic of this, which I've actually grown to appreciate more as I've gotten older, defies readability for this kind of thing. The way that everything is kind of made up of these abstract building blocks. A lot of the time, to where I am just constantly, if there's a loop to loop, I'll go fast. Otherwise, though, I'm just moving very slowly because the traps don't have tells a lot of the time. And they're real, they're meant to fuck you up if you're playing fast. Like that's the idea. There are a bunch of times in this where you get to the edge of a wall where you're going to jump up on the next platform, and there's literally just a spring that isn't foreshadowed that just pops you out and makes you do the section over. So the idea is like what happened was I'd be running at it full speed, like Sonic, go Sonic, little man, and then that spring would just go nope, boing. Start over. There's a trap here. And I would shoot back. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to slow down in this part. And then I would get to the next thing and there'd be a thing where I needed momentum. I'm like, okay, so the proper thing to do would have been to know that was there in advance and jump it.
Which is not great.
But you can't do that. You know, like the camera's a little too close up to Sonic for to have that kind of knowledge. The traps don't have a tell, which would have been a good idea, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know if the series ever did that? Like,
not in 2D.
Had like, okay. So it ended up the experience if you don't know these levels is very strange.
Yeah.
Like, it is playing like a guessing game with the level designers to figure out which Sonic I'm supposed to be playing. And the bummer is, like, I think 2 of those 3 Sonics are much better.
Yes.
Like, I can handle the exploration, even though the rewards aren't very good. And I like the speed Sonic, and managed to pull off a couple like cool last minute jumps, you know, with enough notice to maintain my momentum.
Yeah.
But precision platforming trap avoidance Sonic, I don't like how Sonic controls for it. Like, I eventually got used to it enough, but I wanted something that like mitigated my like landing, like a hover or double jump or something.
Yeah.
I wanted something to make that kind of platforming better. And I never felt signaled or communicated to when those modes were going to change.
It's funny.
And I think the difference is just repetition.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think that like you're getting at something. This really feels designed to be an arcade game to me. It feels like a quarter muncher that is meant to be kind of shuttle run through as you get the as you kind of internalize this. It's not meant to be sight read. Is the thing of it. This is meant to be, you know, memorized. You know, memorized and to be played through like that. And there are times where it's explicitly designed. There's almost like you know, I want to be the guy kind of traps where it's like there would be no way for me to know that there was an instant death thing here waiting for me. That was placed there with comic timing, actually. You know, and you know, it's kind of a die roll. It's a die roll modified by how much you're vibing with the rhythm of the game, or how much you can, you know, again, guess, you know, anticipate what the level designers are, you know, kind of putting forward for you, whether you're going to pass it or whether it's going to either, you know, chew through one of your lives or set you back, right?
Yeah, or at the absolute very least, kill all of your momentum.
Yes,
you know, that you have moving through the level. And I think I don't like that. Like, it's a weird, like, I like this game. I had fun playing it. It's breezy. It's aesthetically, like, I've come to appreciate the aesthetic a lot more in like the decade since the last time we talked about a Sonic game. But in terms of what I'm looking for in a platform, like, this was a fun space to be in and look at, but not always a fun place to move around in.
Yeah.
You know, so I think to me that is its fatal flaw in terms of like why this has all the aesthetic markers of something that is, you know, absolutely key to platformers, but you also don't see a lot of platformers that carry this design forward. No,
this is a little bit of a dead end. I mean, and you can tell because of the way that they completely changed it once it went to 3D, right?
Yeah. And went into this weird exploratory phase, you know, of trying to figure out something that worked. And it's really interesting to have something that was this big of a success and have them be like, wait a minute, that actually kind of didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do instead of that? Like, this IP is already outracing this design principle. Yeah. You know, that we built this at. Like, it's really interesting. You cannot draw a line from a modern Sonic game back to, I mean, you can with the 2D remakes, but like, you can play Mario 1 and kind of understand that sense of momentum and jump, and then also play, you know, Bowser's Fury. Yeah. And kind of understand it. This doesn't have that. No. And I don't know, like, there's not Sonic likes that I know of. You know, like, people aren't making Sonic games. And it doesn't make it a bad game or make it, like, not worth playing or anything. It just added frustration and added... It's so out of step with the times to do an arcade platformer like that. It makes it like kind of an interesting kind of relic almost.
It is, yeah. You know, and I can say as somebody who, you know, spent a great deal of his childhood, you know, internalizing these and really, you know, playing them. I have no idea if I was any good at them, but like when you are riding high and, you know, kind of like nimbly getting through a lot of those, you know, precision jumps, you know, without really, you know, losing any speed, not missing any steps. It feels very good to execute on this, you know, in a way that it feels good to speedrun stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that's not going to be for everybody. And I think that the higher value, or the higher thing that that a platform game can, aspire to, again, is that more consistent lower floor and and a high ceiling, that was happening around this time.
You can have both.
Yeah.
And it just ends up being like a very interesting experience to go back to it. Like, I'd recommend, anyone who is interested in platformers who somehow missed this, which, because of their age, probably, like, I was going to say, oh, who missed this? I'm like, oh yeah, like people, 12 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
But if you miss this, it's worth going back to see how kind of experimental and how long it took platformers to kind of like get calcified in what their values would be.
Yes.
Because this is definitely a weird evolutionary dead end. Still has its audience. There's still throwbacks that kind of go through this, but they are for its audience.
Yeah. There is a line that can be traced forward from this period, and it's Crash. It's from Mark Cerny, who was one of the lead designer on this, who went over to Naughty Dog. And he went and did a bunch of Crash stuff. Yeah, just like there were a good number of 3D platformers that kind of like carried some of this aesthetic, but without the momentum based play as strongly expressed, right?
Yeah, without speed. Like, speed doesn't matter in Crash.
No,
like Crash is all slow trap avoidance and exploration. Sonic, nobody's taking that speed and sudden trap.
And the reason for that is it's really expensive to make levels in 3D for speed, where you're crossing that kind of distance and still having the spaces be visually interesting. It takes a lot of assets and stuff. It's hard.
Well, my understanding is that 3D Sonic games have more growing pains than a lot of long-running franchises. Like, there are a lot of low cards in that deck.
Many exceptionally low cards in that deck.
Yeah. Some of the worst. It ends up being like, so that's, as a standard WAF thing, I feel like that tension is present in every level in this game. Like, it becomes more present as you go further, but even in the first area, like, that shows up. I'm not going to talk about it every time, but for me, it was a patina over the game that didn't like dampen my enjoyment, because it's a fun place to be. It looks good and it sounds good, and it's breezy, but did end up making me, I wasn't coming to this necessarily for, like, I can't really see revisiting it over and over and over outside of wanting to be in that space. And I can do that by throwing the soundtrack up on YouTube.
Yeah. Which I do and intend to in the future. So
yeah, it's good. There are special stages in this. If you have 50 rings and use a checkpoint, you get to go into these 3D half pipes, where you have to collect a certain number of rings while avoiding bombs that take your rings. Tails loves to run into those bombs.
Yes, he does.
Little shit. And if you get the correct number of rings, you get a Chaos Emerald.
Yeah.
And Obama chuckles. And if you get all of them, if you have enough rings, you can turn into Super Sonic, who is faster, invincible Sonic.
Yes. He is yellow, and this is not a Dragon Ball Z ripoff, guys. Stop saying that. Don't quote me as saying it's a Dragon Ball Z ripoff. And Super Sonic would end up being just an important part of the weird lore and story of Sonic going forward, even as early as the next game. Thankfully, they don't make it so that you have to get all of the Chaos Emeralds to see all of the content in this, like they do from Sonic 3 onward. There is no there is no kind of like bad ending where you're unable to make it to the final boss, the final stage, because you don't have the power of the emeralds and Obama's chuckle. You don't go into discarded aquarium tank zone just to drown. There's no platforms. Those 3D stages suck. I mean, they're not fun to play. They were super impressive back in 1992. I can attest to this. I remember just being super blown away by the pseudo 3D. And I think that the shine wore off of that a little bit. And maybe that's why Donkey Kong Country didn't land as hard for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The first time I saw one, I thought it was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're real weird and slippery on it.
Yes.
Like Sonic's got a real case of butter feet.
Yeah. No, he's just trying to make Paul Bunyan some flapjacks, some weird long tubular flapjacks.
So they're fun, and they also definitely wear out their welcome. Even if you think they're fun, just it being the same one every time is a pretty big bummer. There's 2-player mode in this for 3 of the maps, where 1 player controls Tails. This is, I told this story when we did Sonic 3, but I'll tell it again. My Sonic experience was from my rich cousin who had a Sega, and how he delighted in whether Tails was being AI controlled or Gary controlled, ditching him and then saying "later, Tails" every single time.
He sounds like a real cool dude.
Yeah, my cousin Tony was pretty cool. He really enjoyed ditching Tails and going "later, Tails." It was an RP server when he was playing Sonic.
Later Tails.
Later, Tails.
Oh man, it gets cooler every time.
It's extremely cool.
Oh man, this was neat. The split screen multiplayer, they accomplished this. It's kind of cool. They did it with the deinterlacer. Is how they managed this to render both of it. So they did some kind of trick where the even lines and the odd lines lined up to make a squished version of the full frame. On the top and bottom. It's neat. Yuji Naka had intended to do this in Sonic 1, but they had run out of time. So,
yeah. Apparently it is glitchy.
Yeah. Oh, it's very glitchy.
Yeah. People had real mixed reviews about that.
Yeah.
As it went on. Mm-hmm. Or as it was contemporary.
The one in Sonic 3 is better. Better stages, and they're designed as like races, which is neat. Yeah. This is a pretty game. I gotta say that for as much as I, like the big and colorful, just very strongly expressed kind of color palettes for each for each stage, the fun enemy robot designs, like all of those are good. I do kind of miss the surreal abstract stuff from the original. A lot of this is, I think for a little bit for the worse, designed to be a bit more practical than what that was. It's
more representational for sure. Like,
this is
some of the things. None of these are spaces.
Yeah,
like none of these are sensible spaces. This is not the Sonic immersive sim, but they're more that platform is recognizable as a thing. As opposed to just like a multicolored piece of matter.
Yeah. So when I think about old Sonic like this, I do kind of like ascribe the first game's aesthetics, or like bring the first game's aesthetics and like blow that up more in my head. But it's weird how quickly they got away from that. Which is a little bit of a bummer, although this is still an attractive game. This was meant to be, it was made as a system seller for the Genesis.
When you get Casino Night Zone.
Yeah.
So I will trade a lot of abstract platforms for Casino Night Zone. Soundtrack is great.
Love it.
Composed by Masato Nakamura of Dreams Come True. It's really, really excellent soundtrack. It was going to be difficult to pick which songs to put in the soundtrack because they're all really good.
Yeah.
During the edit. Very good.
Fire it up. Excellent. Just amazing FM synthesis. Coming out of the Genesis, just a really good showcase for that sound chip. Something that I wish would come back, just how fronted the bass is, specifically in these old Genesis games. Like we make a joke, like, oh yeah, farty Genesis bass. I just playing games that even come out 8-10 years later after this, when compositions started getting more rich, the bass started getting buried back further, kind of as a result of things becoming a little bit more like or orchestral, like even rock based music. And it's like, man, just bring that bass up to the front, please, and thank you, please. Yeah,
sounds very good.
Yeah. So the original Sonic was developed by the Sonic team over in Japan, but the sequel was made in America at a place called the Sega Technical Institute, which goes by the unfortunate acronym of STI.
Sure. Sexually transmitted infection.
Yeah. That's what that means now. And it was
boner disease.
it was headed by that institute was headed by Mark Cerny, came over from Atari, I believe. The person who did Marble Madness, which also is a game like weirdly about momentum.
And also has weird abstract zones and backgrounds.
It does.
To it.
Yeah. As I look at my Marble Madness wall art that I have in front of my desk here.
Madness is great.
Yeah.
I love Marble Madness.
Yeah.
The music is wonderful.
Agreed. Yuji Naka worked on this. He had originally left Sega after the first Sonic launched because of a salary dispute, but then he decided to join the Sega Technical Institute when they began working on the sequel. They just asked him real nicely, and he came over along with a bunch of folks from Japan to kind of make this a joint venture.
Yeah, that was originally the idea. For this, that's the vision. Cerny pitched this in September of 1991 for Christmas of 1992. But Sega declined at first, saying that's too much time, but then changed their mind in November, giving them less time.
Yeah.
Cool.
9 months to make the game instead of 11. Neat.
Yeah. There's a lot of tension between the American and Japanese team. Cerny's idea was that the Japanese team would mentor the American team, but they don't speak the same language. And there were cultural differences.
I like the idea of the language thing coming as a surprise.
Whoa.
Why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah, I just thought they were singing. So that's a big language barrier. And then there was crunch. The Japanese team worked 24 hours a day and slept in their cubicles, and the American developers did not want to do that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to read about this stuff, because the traditional, the kind of tact of or histories of this that you read is that there's a patina of shitty Americans to it. The pros came in, and that was kind of the tact at the time too. Let's have them mentor them.
Yeah.
And then when you read it with 2021 eyes, and but crunch is bad actually.
Yeah. It doesn't show dedication. It shows that a team can be exploited if the leadership makes bad enough decisions, and they have to be. Yeah.
Well, and the culture of exploitation is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a specific quote, so Yuji Naka is supposed to be very hard to work with. He's very particular, very demanding. One of the level artists has quoted Craig Stitt as calling him an arrogant pain in the ass. I saw post about this that are of course he thinks that the genius of Yuji Naka was not being appreciated and stuff.
Do we want to go down the big list of things that Yuji Naka made after Sonic?
Yeah, it's like when Brian Michael Bendis talks about he's such a genius, and it's man, I fucking read the new Avengers thing. I know that guy's. So there's this weird when you read about it, there is a weird primacy of the genius of Japanese game design in this. I've read a bunch of message board things that are of course they think that of Yuji Naka, as if Yuji Naka could not have been an arrogant pain in the ass because he's the designer of Sonic.
The stuff that I've read, and also just kind of an attitude that you find, it's almost like a borderline chauvinism that ends up happening, where obviously the design the designers from Japan must be the better ones, or their way of working must be best, or their product is better because they are from Japan, which is a weird way of putting country and origin, nationality in front of individuals who make, creative decisions and, leadership and teams and stuff, and their efforts, which is an attitude that I'm not necessarily that crazy about.
I don't like that attitude at all. I've been thinking a lot about how undignified it is to be a fan of a country, because countries are really complicated.
I
You know,
really,
there's
and I also want to put out here, I realize I said chauvinism. Americans can be chauvinistic as fuck. This is a very specific instance,
Yeah.
in case somebody wants
I
to
think
come
that
gunning
Americans
at
are probably
us.
more chauvinistic
Yeah.
in a general sense, but that is not the same thing as saying that you cannot be a chauvinist for another country.
And also, I'm because these are English message boards, I'm talking about like Westerners having having the potential to express this kind of chauvinism about Japanese developed games specifically,
Yes.
because games from Japan dominated the market on consoles specifically when they were kids, right?
And you'll see it in more than games too. You'll see it in in just kind of general cultural things or historical things.
Yeah.
And it's silly.
Yeah.
It's undignified and silly because no one is arguing that our country, America, isn't an absolute fucking trash fire of history, like that we haven't done atrocity after atrocity.
Yeah.
But that's true of almost every country. And it's when you're like, oh no, like this is just somehow pure because it's other, that feels like a kind of exoticism or racism that's really gross and undignified to me.
Yeah.
You know, like don't be a fan of any country and don't be a fan of your own country.
Yeah.
Like countries are too complicated to have a fandom of them. You know, like if you're a fan of the country, you have to be a fan of all of it. Like if you love, you love America, like, and someone's gonna be like, well, what about slavery? If you just love Japan, like, what about the racism there? Or Unit 741, like all this horrible shit. Like it's all bad. Don't put your faith in countries. It's stupid. Like it doesn't make any sense. Just individuals, so like the message board stuff I saw, they were like, oh, like of course the ignorant American called Yuji Naka an arrogant pain in the ass. Like really frustrating to me.
Well, American auteurs are huge arrogant pains in the ass too. Auteurs tend to be. Yeah.
That guy seems like a real piece of shit. He might not be. I don't know. But like obviously famously hard to work with. John Romero will make you his bitch. Like hard to work with and obnoxious. That's kind of creative people, regardless of the culture and the kind of deification of certain creators from some culture, any culture, any country. It just ends up reading as really like simple to me. It is a very simplistic read. And also, I don't know, we should decouple creativity or excellence in expression, decouple those from A, being an addict, B, being miserable generally, and C, being difficult to work with. You can be a creative person who is none of those three things, right? That are bad things to be, that are harmful to everybody around you. Like, I think that in general, if somebody is hard to work with, you should say it. Because we need to decouple these. We need to decouple those things, I think, for the good of anybody who wants to make anything, especially on a team. Well, and it's amazing to me that it's 2021 and it's still kind of a point that we also need to decouple creativity from nationality. Like, what is that weird fucking eugenics shit that people are engaging in and they're allowing themselves to because it's positive? Like it's just weird.
I don't know if I'm making a straw man, but I feel like we're making people really angry with this.
Maybe. I don't know if people are being angry. I have the Reddit receipts to prove that there are people who are doing this. I've read the interviews and read the boards where people are having this discussion. It's an attitude that I have seen.
It is a strange attitude that is very, very hard to relate to. As somebody who loves games that come out of Japan, games from this era, it's just
same.
It's weird. It is weird. And, to read stories about that and then, about that kind of behavior and then see it defended,
Yeah. It's just, you do not know these creators. Stop acting like you do, So Yuji Naka does not seem super great. And then also, like you said, let's go through his resume. Is he still, he did the Balan Wonderland. Yeah,
he did Balan Wonderland. I think he, cool. I think he made a quiet, dignified exit from Square after that. I believe Square was the developer publisher on there.
Balan Wonderland looks like you filled a 2-liter bottle with water and then came in it and then swirled the water around, and that's the character design. Like it's horrible. Horrible. Yeah. Anywho, you got here in the notes again that they removed Sonic's speed cap. I cannot stress enough that is not true. I don't know why you keep saying it.
Gary, if they made the level infinitely long, he would be able to reach the speed of light. He's the fastest thing alive, Gary. Okay,
is this like
the song says so.
Is this wish casting into the notes?
No, this is
Why do you
me
keep saying that. What do you mean?
No, this is me phrasing things inelegantly, which I generally try not to do. But I made these notes in a little bit of a hurry, so maybe climb off my dick.
Never, my son.
Something that I love. Something I love. Just as they were talking, like, okay, we're going to make him faster. We have to punish the players somehow. What if we made it so that if you ran into a wall at full speed, Sonic would die?
Yeah, he would die. He would get hurt or bounce off.
Yeah,
like lose all his momentum.
Right.
And they thought better of that. There's so much cut content in this game. Like that's one of the cut features. But the original story was actually huge as well.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Robotnik like won or something, and Sonic had to go back through time to fix him. And the different stages would be the past, present, and future of the same place.
Right.
There were like something like 9 zones cut for this, 8 zones.
Yeah, no, we got 11 and they were originally going to be like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of which they added to a later port, which is pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. So the time travel story was cut for time. That's weird because if that actually came through and the game was that long and what you ended up having was kind of just like different coats of paint over individual stages, that would actually feel like they were padding it to me. To a certain degree. It's like I'm just kind of going through the same space again, and like, yeah, there's some there's some new toys. We see this in Emerald Hill and Hilltop Zone. Those feel different enough that it's generally okay. But if it was executed to the point where it straight up told you, okay, you're in this place, but it's a different time, so it's slightly different, that would actually end up feeling worse than what we ended up getting, which is, this kind of, fast but still satisfying game that's meant to be gone through a bunch of different times because you're finding different routes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would make a kind of sense, but I'm happier with what we have.
Yeah. And what they had proposed was distinct from the time travel that's in Sonic CD. Sonic CD, you were actually controlling if you went forward or backward in time. It wasn't going through all the levels in sequence, some of them just happening to be past, present, and future versions of that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they condense this, they kind of would take some gimmicks and add them to the other stages, make them a little bit more dense. There was going to be a level called Genocide City. Mm-hmm. Seems like maybe they didn't want to call a city Genocide City.
No,
but this got folded into Metropolis Zone, the much more sensibly named. Yeah. Like Metropolis Zone could be a store at the mall. Genocide City is a setting for a post-apocalyptic like Rifts module.
Yep. Oh God. They had to back when it was still going to be added into the game, the American team had to say like, hey guys, I realize that word sounds cool, it has to be Cyber City, please.
Yeah, it means something,
Yeah, it has a
ignorant Americans, those arrogant ignorant Americans, stopping them from calling it Genocide City.
Yeah. So that level that you said that was added to one of those remakes, Hidden Palace level, that was something that was partially developed and they dummied it out, but a fair amount of it still remained in the game. You could access it through a glitch, and you could listen to a soundtrack in the sound test, or a song in the sound test that people assumed was from this level. People knew that this Hidden Palace level existed because it was featured in preview materials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some tension around this because a lot of that cut content was made by the American side of the team. Mm-hmm. And you can check it out if you want to. If you look on YouTube or the cutting room floor, you can see all these in progress builds of this. Mm-hmm. It's neat how much of it's available. People
who are more well versed in this, will they understand like, okay, here was this version of the game. Here's like the recovered version that this person made. There's kind of a whole subculture in modding, retro game modding, that is putting all this together and documenting it. It's cool. I always like seeing behind the curtain, especially on a game this old, because my memory of them as a like polished and professional product, kind of defies this even being made by human hands when I think about it as a kid, and learning that it was just barely put together in time is neat and humanizing.
Yeah, there's blood in the cobblestones of this. The crunch was incredibly real. The game wasn't even playable until the last 48 hours of development time. Mm-hmm. It's wild to think about. I was thinking about when we did Chrono Trigger and it has the developer room where it's like, I miss my wife. Yeah. LOL. My kids don't know what my face looks like anymore.
Yeah.
I hope you like our game.
Like another part of like the final days of this, they had to ship it off to Japan because it needed to be made in the factories over there that had the bigger ROM chips.
The better pit.
Yeah. Just the bigger printers basically. And they shipped it on 2 planes in case one of them went down, so it could still be released on time.
The secret recipe for Sonic 2. Not allowed to fly together.
Yeah.
This is really well received in its time. Second best-selling Sega Genesis game after the original, and the original had a console pack-in.
Yeah.
So that tells you something. This is a huge game.
Yeah, this had a huge marketing push behind it. You had the Mortal Monday where you ran out into the street and shouted Mortal Kombat.
I did.
Yeah.
I ran on the streets and said, "Later, Tails."
I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. The release date of Sonic 2 stands in my mind not just because I knew it was Sonic Tuesday. It was marketed to me as such, but it was very traumatic actually. Because this was 1992, so this would have been preschool or kindergarten or something like that. My stepdad picked me up and was driving me home, and I was real excited. It's like, Sonic 2 comes out today. We're going to get this. It was like 4 days after my birthday. Like, yeah, just something like that. And the whole ride home, he was like, hey, listen, the store didn't have it, and they said they're not going to have any in this year. I'm real sorry. We tried, blah, blah, blah. Worked me up into tears because I'm like 4 or 5 years old. Right?
Yeah.
Sobbing because I'm being told, you're not even going to get it in time for Christmas. And then, he brings me, just completely despondent and then rushes me upstairs to the bedroom where he had it in there, in their dresser, saying here, take it. It's here. It's yours.
Yeah. His plan to, I don't know, backfired on him.
No, he was just
I was trying to upset my son and he got upset.
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure. He did that a couple other times too. And then my entire family had done that around many different Christmases as well.
It's very funny.
Yeah. Just tormenting
the
me.
family mark.
Yep.
Yeah. We can lie to baby Cole with impunity.
Yeah. And I turned out emotionally fine. So
yeah, you're happy. You seem happy. You seem happy and well adjusted. No mental health issues at all.
Nope. No. No anxiety or trust problems. Yeah.
Yeah. That can be traced back to Sonic Tuesday. I'm imagining the version of Citizen Kane, Citizen Cole, where it's it begins with a close up on your lips in black and white with you going Sonic Tuesday, and us living, exploring the rest of your life and how that single event was the first domino in a chain.
Oh God, just me clapping without a smile in my eyes or on my face. Yes, just a cut.
This has been released.
just had a cutscene compilation from Sonic or from Shadow the Hedgehog. That was the joke.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I would play a mod that modded you into Shadow the Hedgehog, just mapped your skin.
I would be the president who gets shot at the beginning.
Yeah, no. I would want you to do the shooting.
Oh, okay, yes,
because this is your Joker origin story. What happens when you cross a mentally unwell loser with a parent who doesn't care if he gets Sonic 2? What do you get? Exactly what you deserve, Tails.
Oh God, it's funny and I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Yeah, this has been released 1 million times. There are 1,000 different versions of this in parts of compilations on every system. You can basically buy this. Sometimes they add mechanical changes to it.
The aforementioned half rings mod, or yeah.
Yep. The biggest change was done for mobile in 2013, made from scratch by these famous Sonic modders, Christian Taxman Whitehead and Simon Stealth Thomley, who added Hidden Palace Zone back into the game, and kept it in. The way you get there is through this like Kaizo trap that is very infamous. So it's very winky.
Yeah. No, these guys, huge fans of Sonic. And it's real cool because I know that at least Whitehead, but maybe Tomley went on as well. They were brought in to be developers on Sonic Mania, which is a game that's good.
I've heard Sonic Mania is very good.
Yeah, they got a chance to work on an official Sonic game, and it turned out great because they understand kind of inside and out what works in these and what doesn't.
Good for them.
Yeah. But that's a really good, that's a good version of it. There are other ones done by like M2, things like that. Generally though, this is really easy to get a hold of. It's on everything. And if you have a computer, you can play a ROM of it as well. I'd recommend doing save states, just cause.
Oh yes.
Yeah. This is kind of meant for you to, again, do the shuttle run through it. There are fun like ROM hacks of this as well. I didn't make a note of this, but I was reading about one. So people really don't like the team that took over with the portable games, specifically Sonic Rush. It's made by a team called Dimps, which is great. DIMP Dimps, which is just just off from being Dinks. Yeah,
it's very bedtime stories. Hey, Mr. Dimpler.
Yeah, but they're not very good, and like they're full of just all kinds of like bad jumps and lots of like speed boosters everywhere. Somebody I forget who, but I was just reading about this, made a Dimps version of Sonic 2, which had the speed boosters everywhere, and just like all of these bad jumps and things. It's like, hey, what if we made this game shitty like that developer would? I love the amount of effort that must have taken to make this cool burn on a developer that you don't like.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I respect it.
Yeah. So this was followed by Sonic 2, it wasn't followed by Sonic 2. Sorry. It was followed by Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, kind of as the immediate sequels in 1994. You can plug Sonic 2 into Sonic and Knuckles to get Sonic 2 and Knuckles.
Yeah, where you can play as Knuckles in this, who has different abilities, so you can access different parts of the level.
Yeah.
Knuckles glides and he climbs with his big, ridiculous fist spikes. And after the 16-bit era, the Sonic games quietly went away. We all know what happened. They stopped doing them. They didn't introduce any shitty friends.
Yeah.
He never had sex with a human woman. He never summarily executed a cop. Sonic just went away, quietly faded into gracefully into obscurity.
No, there definitely wasn't a Sonic game that I was really looking forward to on the Dreamcast. And the Christmas that I was supposed to get the Dreamcast on Christmas Eve, my family said, hey, the store was out of them.
How did you keep falling for that?
At a certain
real loosey like football kind of thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't cry, but I got real pissed off.
Yeah, eventually, like it's just going to escalate you. You go through all the different stuff, the stages of not getting Sonic when you think you're going to get Sonic.
Yeah, a 13-year-old young man killed his mom, stepdad, and brother.
Oh, is he radicalized by QAnon?
No, he didn't get a Sega. They told him he couldn't play as Big the Cat.
Big the Cat the day he thought he was going to, but then actually could. Can you imagine the tragedy? Just incredible. In real life, Sonic went on to become a real grab bag of nonsense.
Yeah. Sonic Mania is good.
I'm sure there are a bunch of ones. I think that for every 10 bad ones, there's probably one good one.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just saying the remake of the classic ones is good. The 3D ones, I don't think we're gonna do any of the 3D ones on this show.
I'm good, man. If you like, don't expect me to pay attention to Sonic lore.
Yeah.
And I'm good. Like Abject Suffering, maybe. Like the Shadow of the Hedgehog, Abject Suffering, I had a great time. I think it's very funny. You begin that game by killing a lot of cops, but not just for killing cops reasons. It's the context.
It's the tone.
Not being an edgelord.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's in a Sonic game. But yeah, I don't want to try to take it seriously.
No, don't make me. You can't.
Yeah, don't make me. Let's get into it. We started with Emerald Hill Zone, which is our basic green hill zone.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a bigger reaction out of that joke. I've been working on that for like a day and a half. Not working on it, but it came to me.
I didn't know. I'd say it sounded accidental, and I didn't want to kill the momentum.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, that's how unsonic of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start off with Emerald Hill Zone.
Yes.
Which is very Sonic 1.
Yeah, just like, hey, you remember all this stuff, right? You know, you do end up with like lots of successive loops. There's lots of opportunities to build up some momentum, but it's real kind of basic stuff. You know, there's one route through this level. Something that ends up happening with the bigger levels in this is that you end up getting a top route and a bottom route through a good number of them. This one keeps it basic, at least for right now.
Yeah. And there's kind of a vague sense that you want to stay on top because you can always fall to the bottom.
Yes.
And then they start putting death hazards at the bottom. So with my very rudimentary, like did not have the levels memorized play, my heuristic was try to stay as high up as long as possible.
Yeah.
Just because there didn't tend to be death things
Yes.
up there. I don't know if that is optimal or what monitors I was missing out on.
Yeah, and the trade-off is like if you're up real high, you're probably doing some tricky platforming, which slows you down a little bit. You don't get the speed.
Yeah, but then you also don't drown.
Of course.
So yeah. We're gonna introduce these basic things, springs, you know, that will pop you up. You do a little flip, you know, corkscrew loops, which are cool looking. Yeah, and really basic enemies here.
Yeah,
as well.
Get the fish enemies. Those are very similar to the first game. These flying wasps called buzzers, which again feel pretty familiar, and our good friend Coconuts from the Sonic Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon makes his appearance here.
Thank God.
Yeah,
and we fight a version of Eggman with a drill. Who has this little drill car. He just drives back and forth. And at first I'm like, why did he think this would work? But then I'm also like, oh, it's a hedgehog though. Like if I were to drive a car over a hedgehog,
it'd probably be
like
very
I might
little
have bad
that it could
dreams
do
for a
actually.
Bit, but I could do it. Yeah. It's not a cartoon. It's not going to pop my tire or anything.
Right. It's very funny because like you just walk up and you see the frame of the drill car sitting there with like the wheels and the drill, and then he flies around in his little egg pod kind of thing. He motors in like with a helicopter rotors working, and he lands in it, and just like, you could have just fought me from the helicopter, dude. That probably would have been
overkill.
Yeah.
You got to escalate force, like versus a hedgehog. You don't want to pull out the big guns, you know.
Why did you save the best for last?
Yeah, well, you know, it's just this has one of the more like gentle boss difficulty curves.
It does
in a video game. It's very, like I generally like the bosses in this. They're all exceedingly simple. Yeah, but they get it like one iota more complicated every time. Just a little bit more complicated. The next zone, chemical plant zone, is really cool.
Yep.
I like this a lot. This allows you to long sections where you are a pinball.
Yes.
You get to max speed and you don't have to press anything. You're just going.
Yeah. It's gone, man. Forget it.
Yeah. It's over there. It's chemical plant zone.
Yeah.
Lots of speed boosters, launch pipes. There are platforms of rotating boxes, where they will fall under you and fall away floors. Yeah. But generally you're going fast enough to where these aren't going to really fuck you.
Yeah. This is especially true in the first one. This is like the biggest difference between the first act and the second. So the first one is mostly about going along these long runs, going through the speed boosters. The second one is where they introduce the Mega Mac, which I think is supposed to be Mega Muck.
That would make more sense.
It'd make way more sense, yeah. But in the manual, it's called Mega Mac, and for a little while as a kid, I was like, oh, that's just what you call gross water. But the stage is flooded, and it turns into a water stage. and you get your drowning hazard, and there are no oxygen bubbles in this one. So this whole thing is really tough because it was meant to come later in the rotation. Actually, I think it's smart of them to move it up though, because that first act of this is just a real showstopper.
Yeah, the beginning of this I like a lot more than the second.
Yeah.
I don't understand the impetus behind putting Sonic underwater all the time.
Yeah.
It fucks with his physics and it is impossible to get speed, and that's the appeal of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that it adds tension, because Sonic will drown, and that's an infamous gamer thing. But I would not have done it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like show a cutscene where he drowns or something, like he has a nightmare. Maybe so you can still get that across. I don't know.
It's just in the story, it doesn't affect him.
Yeah.
You can go he can go near
nightmare.
water. You just don't have to put him into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is also the first level where that like, hey, slow the fuck down thing happens.
Yeah.
Where they introduce these slow moving platforms over water, and you have to realize like with this Sonic controls that, how do I jump on a moving platform?
Yeah.
Which like surprisingly took me like more tries than I care to admit. Because you'd land and you'd still have momentum, and then I would overcorrect.
Yes.
There, like it kind of just the way that Sonic feels weird jumping at low speed.
The specific segment where you have to do like a kind of a string of these moving platforms as they meet in the middle out there. It's pretty frustrating because it drops you into the water, and you have a fair way to go getting back, including jumping up this column of a bunch of
rotating blocks.
Yeah, like the rotating blocks underwater, which it's impossible to go up those very quickly, and B, anything that thing that moves in the world has the possibility to crush you. So if you are, if you mistime your jump, it is possible just to be insta killed by being, pressed against the wall.
Yeah, which is what would immediately happen to me in real life in any of these video games.
Yeah, just nothing but just a greasy smear on the wall. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's kind of like, and the way that when I talked about how the levels go up and down in this, like I had this real feeling like this is followed by the water themed level. And I was like, oh shit, like the game is just going to be more slow down hazards and everything. Yeah. But it goes back and forth because we're going to get into Casino Night Zone and Hilltop Zone, which are faster. The boss of this is Water Eggman. So he dips into this Mega Mac, wheezes the juice, and then tries to dump it on Sonic.
It's really just his like dainty little mechanism for that, which is just like he's not spraying it at you. He's just trying to pour a beaker of this poison onto Sonic.
Yeah, so hold still
and drink this.
Yeah. And this is only hard because there's fall away floors, like you can fall into the muck.
Yes. And die. It's instant if you fall into it there. Those are on kind of either side. So you have a much less safe ground than initially it appears.
Yeah. This leads us into the aquatic ruin zone.
Yeah. This is the water themed level, obviously, because of the name. It's a little bit of a compromise though. So the upper levels, the upper route will take you out of the water entirely, where the bottom route just kind of has you in it, the entire time, going from air bubble to air bubble. This feels like an attempt to make a faster pace, water level than we found in Sonic 1. Like specifically we have like the, labyrinth zone, which is just a nightmare, in Sonic 1.
Lots of kind of foreground elements where they get in the way of you, and lots of dead stops as you're moving through. One of the very rare like signal traps in this are the arrow shooting pillars. These actually, there is a tell. Yeah. Where you can see these, which I appreciate. And then there are these fly enemies that fly in the air called wisps that move back and forth very, very quickly. Yeah. So you can't really predict them to jump on them as easily as maybe you could.
Yeah. They're matched down in the water by these piranha enemies called Chop Chops. And all throughout this, again, from the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, we've got Grounder, except this time he's red. And there are a bunch of them just kind of walking around or rolling around on his treads with his weird little drill nose.
And we get to Hammer Eggman.
Yeah. This is a fun boss fight.
Flies back and forth. Yeah, this is good. Flies back and forth between two pillars that shoot arrows. When he hits them with a hammer, they shoot an arrow, and you have to jump on the arrow like the Donald Duck game for Genesis.
Yeah.
And get on top of it and then hit him. And you're safe when you're up there. So if you can stay up there, like bounce off Robotnik and then bounce back onto the pillar, you can basically just vibe.
Yeah, you can just Arkanoid vibe on top. Yeah.
Really good boss fight.
Yeah.
We move into my favorite zone, Casino Night Zone. I think this is probably the most creative and cool that these levels get. And the most that embraces the pinball feeling of Sonic, like literally.
Yeah.
It's a bummer that Sonic's spinball is so shitty. It made me want a real Sonic pinball.
Yeah,
game.
like competently made.
Or like a physical pinball table.
Oh yeah.
That was Sonic themed. That'd be really cool. And I would be surprised if there isn't one, but I'm surprised that if there was one, it's not good enough that I see it in pinball places.
Seems like it would have been popular if it was any good. Yeah. And this becomes a mainstay. The kind of an archetypical Sonic level that would be, reiterated on, kind of have this kind of nightlife zone like you get in Sonic 3. It's Carnival Night, but basically, real similar thing. And it's weird because you go back to Sonic 1 and you think, oh yeah, they had a casino level. No, that was Spring Yard. Like that was just like vaguely industrial is what it was. This is casino themed. Like the music is really good. Like it is the most evocative of a theme in the soundtrack, kind of alongside the Oil Ocean one. But also it is cool to listen to because it's got this nice little swing to it. Feels a little like jazzy and loungy as well. Yeah, and this is super easy too. Like you're just kind of letting it fly on these bumpers and stuff, jumping into the slot machines and hoping that it pays out with lots of rings. Yeah.
Here's a pitch for you.
Okay.
Like how in indie games, there's this movement of some indie games of not having like rigor, like doing your short hikes.
Yeah.
They should make a Sonic style platformer with no traps or enemies that is like this. Like it's all about finding little setups to go into kind of almost autoplay moments and just bounce around. Like I would be more interested in that than like walking around and learning what somebody, remembered from summer camp or whatever. Like I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. No, I mean,
give me a bunch of these and patch out all the hazards.
I mean, it almost would end up being kind of like Tony Hawk-esque a little bit.
Yeah.
About finding runs, right?
Yeah. And we need more Tony Hawks.
We do.
Yeah. Really fun level. Bumpers and springs, like pinball bumpers, you control. We talked about the slot machines. This is where you are no longer moving to the right necessarily all the time. Like you'll run into dead ends that will go backwards and up and down to kind of swerve around. Like a zoomed out map of this would look very not like.
Yes.
And this will continue throughout the game.
And this has kind of been happening for a while, but like it's surprising how few enemies these stages actually have. They're used very strategically, I think, in a lot of ways. But like here, there's only one new enemy. It's this little crab that cutely has a pinball bumper for an arm instead of a claw. This guy's name's Crawl. And it's just placed as like as an unpredictable moving hazard that may just bounce you back if you hit it at the wrong time. If
you try to jump on him, he bumps you like a pinball bumper.
Yeah.
It makes the sound effect and stuff. Really cool looking. You get the boss is Catcher Eggman. So he's got his paw that moves around, but he's got a claw on the side of it. He tries to drop spikes on you from the ceiling. And you fight him in a pinball room, which means you have to kind of spin dash up the side of this like well. It's like a rounded bottom and jump out to hit him.
Yeah.
One of the more complicated kind of bosses.
Yeah. You can either do that or you can jump up to the pinball flippers and hope that you're able to hit them. That's complicated because if you hit them from the bottom, you take damage. So if you're going to rely on the flippers, you have to like get enough space to where you can fly upward and then control your descents to hit them from the top. It's nice and tricky. I like this boss fight quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And we move into the hilltop zone.
Yeah, and this is the most apparent vestige of the time travel concept. This is Emerald Hill Zone, but with lava and with some different enemies and different toys. It does feel a little bit like Stone Agey, instead of like the old, the ropes that you had in Emerald Hill Zone. You end up getting, like vines and things like that. Vines, prehistoric ropes.
Yes, the vines of the past.
Yeah.
This is fine. I don't really like the lava.
Yeah.
And this is more precision platforming based because there is lava.
Mm-hmm.
There are also these seesaws, which I like these.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little fella on there and you jump on them and knock the fella up and then you have to switch sides to use it as a launcher. Each time. What I like a little bit less are the gondolas, which are fine, but end up being like I almost kind of wanted more to do on them.
Yeah, they're real slow.
You just kind of stand on them and nothing happens.
Mm-hmm. What ends up feeling like this works for me because I like the pressure that it puts on you. There are long segments where first a floor and then lava will slowly rise while you're inside of a cavern here, and you have to race and do this long string of platforming to get out before escape becomes impossible, either by being crushed or by having the path forward closed off to you. So kind of like an internal timed kind of section, sometimes using the hazard that is rising as a way to get ahead. It's neat.
Yes. Yeah. A-okay. There are dinosaurs here, again, to kind of show the Stone Age theme. Nothing that's too exciting. And then we fight Submarine Eggman. There are lava pits here. And he emerges from them and spits fire. And sometimes if it hits the side of your platform, it spreads a little fire thing across the ground, like Ranger X. Also fun, and you just have to avoid it. But you can instantly die, so I abuse save states.
Of course.
During this.
Yeah. Well, the lava, if you land on it, it just will it acts like spikes almost.
Oh yeah.
You can jump off of it, which is weird that water is less or that lava is less deadly than water. But Sonic, up is down, left is right.
Who even knows with that guy?
Now we're going to go to Mystic Cave Zone. I think this might be, along with Chemical Plant, my favorite music in the game. Mystic Cave is very good. But this is it's cave, it's indoor, and it's really maze-like. There's lots of starting and stopping, and you're either like riding these ropes up, or you're like jumping onto these dangling switches to lower bridges or open doors.
Yeah. You do a very funny jump off of the dangling switch.
Yep.
Where you hold the same position as if you're grabbing it, and your sprite just kind of goes like the bicycle jumping over the mountain in Achewood.
Exactly.
You do that.
Yeah. It's just like I'm being dragged by the move tool in Photoshop.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's very funny.
Oh,
there are little wall like doors that will open and close automatically here.
Yeah.
And lots of threats to crush you here. The path I took through this, I did not find this spike pit trap.
Yeah.
I just know about it from reading about it because it's what sends you into the Hidden Palace zone.
Right.
And the remake, tell me about this spike pit trap.
Yeah. So this is most commonly going to get you, I believe it is in Act 2. This is most commonly going to get you if you're going as Supersonic, because, basically you would have to go through a closing, one of those moving walls fast enough before it closes to get into this. And you would have to be supersonic because you get to the bottom of it. And the way the supersonic works is every second that you stay as him, you lose a coin. So it's 50 seconds, and then you can refill it as you pick up coins. You end up in this incredibly deep pit. And there's no way out of it, even with Supersonic's higher jump. And there's nothing that you can do, because the pause menu in this doesn't have like a return to menu or a restart stage. There's nothing you can do but wait for your supersonic ability to end, and then you die. So it is just you waiting for maybe upwards of a minute to restart this. Yeah. What's funny about this is that there are all these things that are infamous in the community. Think the weird little barrel that you have to figure out, I press up and down to move in Sonic 3. Things that I ran into and like stick in my head as like, oh geez, that fucking thing. And then to go and read, it's weirdly vindicating, 20 plus, nearly 30 years later, to see that like, no, everybody had problems with that.
Yeah.
This thing, I have distinct memories of like, oh man, I'm supersonic. I'm going to go and do all these stages and see what it's like. Turns out it's easier and you're like really fast. But then getting into this and getting like weirdly panicked because like, well, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense with the crunch.
Yeah.
That's behind this game, that maybe the playtesting.
Yeah.
For this, and then that barrel, maybe there wasn't tons of it because they were just really under the gun.
Oh yeah.
If everyone's having the problem with this, it's either, they either didn't know about it, which seems, only likely if they didn't have a lot of playtesting, or they did know about it and they didn't care.
Yeah.
Which, who can tell?
Yeah. So it would be impossible to talk about this game without talking about that because it does loom large. But just a weird thing that sticks out and you think it's only your problem. And then you find out, no, everybody dealt with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
There are also little Firefly enemies on loan from like a bunch of different games, Mega Man 2 specifically, except they don't actually provide useful light.
Nope.
It's just when they're lighting up, it hurts.
Yeah.
Which is less interesting than the Mega Man 2 trade-off.
Yes.
That you get.
Yeah.
With those guys. And then little centipedes that crawl out of the walls that I don't have a lot I of.
They're not really
no problem.
To make them less hateful. I think that only their head will damage you. Like they're made up of like Vector Man balls, but that also means that they're probably not going to stop you as you're blowing past them. I think they're just kind of meant to be visually impressive and not much else.
And the boss is Drill Eggman too. He's trying again. He brought his drill dozer into an area where you can drill things.
Yeah.
Where he drills into the ceiling and causes spikes to fall down.
Yeah.
I have a mild bone to pick with this because rocks fall down at the same time. And I just would have left the rocks out or put them into a background layer or something. I really stressed myself out trying to dodge both initially, which you can do. But it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And then a rock went through me and I was like, oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah. You only have to dodge the pointy ones. This is also like, if this takes you a couple of tries, this is one of the checkpoints that's not very good. If you die and go back to a checkpoint, you don't respawn with all of your coins. So oftentimes, if you're making multiple runs at a boss, you just kind of appear and you have whatever happens to be between the checkpoint and the boss. In this one, you can't go back, and I think you only have access to like 3 rings before you get there. And because the spikes fall from the ceiling at roughly random places, this ends up being a really nerve-wracking fight if you're just trying to get your hands around it.
Yeah. Yep. This leads us into Oil Ocean Zone. Kind of a follow-up to Chemical Plant Zone, maybe the future of it. Once the chemical plant continued to expand. Lots of oil slides, which are non-interactive. Like you just step on them and then Sonic loses his shit. And like
I lose my shit too. As far as like smelly zones in video games, those would have to be really up there.
It would smell bad.
It would smell really bad.
It smell like oil.
Yeah, just do Sonic
and undead Sonics, like drowned wildlife,
just clogging the filter. Yeah,
skeletons like Leroy, get your ass in gear, and then just like goes and
clears the
broom to get a bunch of Sonic bones out of the
thing. Sonic just losing his mind, careening down a chute covered in benzene.
Yeah, and then just cutting to a bunch of people in poofy jackets, like cleaning them off with a toothbrush. Sonic does drown in crude oil a lot. So
it's his favorite thing. It's like vitamins to him.
Yeah, it's his fetish, and more importantly, it's Tails's. So I don't have like this is with the cannon pods. I was trying to remember because sometimes I haven't played these enough to where the gimmick and the name are strongly associated in my brain. But this is this has a lot of autoplay stuff because it has the slides and then it has these little pods you get into that just shoot you around.
Yeah,
like Donkey Kong barrels, but without the timing.
Yes. Yeah, it literally is just, okay, hop on this thing, which will launch you into this series of, checkered Bowser pods that will just kind of pass you back and forth while you just kind of wait to see. And if it's 1992, it's impressive because, wow, it's moving fast and I'm covering a lot of distance. If it's 2021, you think, wow, man, it'd be neat if I had to do anything here.
Yeah. Time this.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually, I don't like the Donkey Kong games very much, but that's one of the things I like about it. Like the timing the barrels when they move back and forth to aim correctly, like activates my peggle zone or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Sorry, I just pictured just a glowing cross section of your brain, and here we see the peggle zone.
Yeah, and he takes the pointer and hits it, and he goes da, 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 da. There's also little launchers that you had to break the vent on.
Yeah,
it's always like kind of confusing to me in Sonic what things you can smash open.
Yeah,
but you smash these open and they shoot you. And there's also very slow elevators.
Yeah,
like tons of autoplay in this level.
Autoplay and frustrating enemies. So if you're down near the ground level, the titular oil ocean, you have these seahorses that emerge. They're called aquases, which is actually a really good pun. I like that. But and they'll chase you around and shoot little fireballs. The thing is, they're really slow, but they follow you for a very long time. Especially if you're going to be moving slowly, doing some of the more tricky platforming, and it's tough to decide if you're safe to take them out. So you may accumulate a bunch of them. Toward the top, you get octuses, these little octopus enemies that are nowhere near as troublesome as the seahorses.
Yeah. And this ends with Submarine Eggman 2, the sequel. Similar than before. Where he comes out of the oil, he shoots his little ray gun that'll set your platform on fire. He said wait for him to surface and hit him. Yeah. As much as I like the bosses in this, there's not like a huge variety of ideas going on.
No. Just like what projectile is it, and how does he make himself invulnerable for a small period of time? I do like the big disembodied scorpion tail that he sends after you for no reason, basically.
Robotnik reasons.
Yeah. And then this takes us into just a really bad zone. This is
I don't particularly care for Metropolis Zone, aka Genocide City, where the girls are dead and the boys are pretty and dead.
It's rough. No, this is them kind of getting in their difficulty fuck before they get into the kind of like the run of levels that are like story set pieces for ending it. This is like, here is a big complicated Sonic maze, kind of like scrap brain zone from the first one, where there's not so much like in the way of environmental hazards that are going to get you. This is entirely about just incredibly annoying enemies that are meant to set you back and make you do things over again.
Yep. So we got this crab with this big, huge spiky claw called the shell cracker. I'll hit you. And then very annoying to me is these mantises. I hate these guys. These things are called slicers, and they shoot these homing blades that move real quick. Like faster than other projectiles in the game. And more unpredictably. Like the arrows maybe move as fast, but they move in a straight line and they're telegraphed better. Yeah.
No, these go in a big arc and they're difficult to get around because of the narrow spaces, and they're just going to get you. And all of these are placed, A, for you to run into if you have any momentum, and B, for edge denial, specifically the crab, but the slicers are used to this effect a little bit. Which is, you think that you're going to crest over the slip, and then boom, here's this thing to knock you back down, possibly to have to do a bunch of stuff over and over again. This gets very frustrating when it's combined with the big movement gimmick of this, which are the nuts and bolt elevators, where it's like a gigantic screw that goes, like in a corkscrew column from ceiling to floor, and you jump on top of a big nut. And then run to make the nut rotate and move up or down.
I wonder what percentage of our audience are giggling now about all like jumping on a big nut and edge denial and stuff. Like this is a very like dense period of double entendre.
Butt joint. Yeah.
The butt joint. I was going to clean it up and say that these nut elevators are basically what Sonic the Hedgehog has in common with Eli Whitney, inventor of the seed drill, using the same principle as the seed drill.
The seed drill.
Move up and down.
The seed drill. Yeah.
Yeah, the seed drill. Seed drill Eggman. Shows up later. Plants eggs.
This is, not a terrible idea. It's a nice little like physical, just like geek awe to put into a stage, right? Problem is, you'll get to the top of this, and if one of these edge denial enemies knocks you down, you're back at the bottom, and you have to like backtrack a little bit to make it spawn at the bottom again to come back up. You end up trapped. Yeah. Also, you have these starfish enemies that are placed at vertical intervals, and they fire, and they're projectiles like in this little star pattern, but they're done specifically to hit you in this place while you're running on these nuts. These nuts, and unable to dodge them.
You're running on the Bofa. And these guys are named after the Minotaur in Greek myth for some reason.
Huh.
I do not know why these are Asterions.
Yeah.
The enemy here is Flying Eggman. So it's an egg pod surrounded by these ring of balls that turn into little clones of Eggman. Very weird. Through the miracle of life.
Yeah.
This is a strictly pro-life game. The little balls that turn into the clones of Eggman should not be destroyed by Sonic the Abortionist.
It adheres to the homunculus theory of reproduction. Inside each sperm cell is a tiny little man.
Let me out.
Yep.
God, if semen could talk, that'd be the tales it would tell.
Missed a spot.
Just like a 70 million part harmony. But it's
cosmic. Amazing.
Yeah, it would be, it's incredible. But the trick here is figuring out the right angle to hit him at.
Yeah. Because it kind of rotates around him. Ends up being a little bit tough because you have to jump and hit him from the top again, because if you hit him at the bottom, you're going to hit the thruster.
Mm-hmm.
Thrust.
Yeah, thrust. There's the Metropolis sex zone. This has a little like break level, which I like in pacing. The Sky Chase Zone, which is an auto scroller where Sonic is on the like a biplane that Tails is piloting. And Tails is doing great work where he just is always under you.
Yeah, and crack pilot.
Yeah, absolute crack pilot. He's wasting in his time like running around.
Go for the good of the city. This is a little tricky because it kind of seems like you're, depending on how you jump, just like, oh, am I going to fall to my death? No, Tails will always catch you. In order to deal with the enemies, you have to, make some jumps and bounce around between them, confident that Tails is just always going to be matching the X and Y position under you,
I love these turtles. Like where it's a small turtle riding a bigger turtle.
I love that so much.
It's so like I can never not think about the politics of that. But generally this is pretty easy. I find, because it goes so slow.
Yeah,
it's like one of the slower auto scrollers.
And the music is real, is real like pleasant as well. Yeah. So it's neat, and also you get those. I like those big dorky pterodon jet planes that you get.
Yeah, I like those guys as well.
Yeah.
This ends with Tails getting shot down. No boss fight here.
He spins into the Sea of Japan.
Yeah, he lands on an island where there's an old, Japanese soldier who doesn't know that World War II is over.
Holdover, yeah.
And they find that they have a lot in common. Actually, it's very strange.
Heartwarming though, from such different worlds.
Later, soldier. Later, holdover soldier.
Oh man. And this takes us into Wing Fortress Zone, where we're going to be platforming around the outside of the Flying Fortress. This has a lot of tricky instant death platforming. There's basically no safe ground in this, and there's only one route through it.
And I do not like how Sonic performs when he's being blown up by a fan, blown upwards by a fan. I find it really tricky to know what the area of effect of the fan is.
Yeah.
I wish they'd used a visual indicator for that, like a beam or something.
Agreed.
Like and you could just make an anti-gravity beam or something like that and been fine.
Yeah, the amount of precision, especially the amount of precision that is expected of you as you make your exit off of these, your dismount, you really need to know where the edge of the effect is.
Yeah, because otherwise you can fall off it rather than jumping off of it.
Yeah.
Or fall off on an accident rather than with intention.
Mm-hmm. There are also some just like really frustrating, like with the hanging, like when you hang from brackets, it's very much the same as when you're jumping off of the switches back in Mystic Cave. But with this one, like, it is very unclear. There's one particular jump where you have to get across these jet engines that are there, and you have to like get yourself in exactly the right position at the right most of one of these handles to make it to the other side. Otherwise, you're going to fall to your death because there's no safety beneath you.
Yeah, bummer. There are turrets manned by these chickens who are known as cluckers. Who are also, they just complicate this. They're not particularly odious in their own, but you're already dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And you fight a barrier Eggman. A new Eggman here. He's got you trapped between two force fields, and this laser pod moves across the ceiling. So you have to avoid his shots and these spiky platforms while using the platforms to get up high enough to attack him near the ceiling.
There would be a better version of this in Sonic 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun though because you can see Robotnik just kind of hanging over on the edge of the screen if you go to the right far enough. I don't know. I love how goofy like Robotnik looks when he's out of his machines.
Yeah, I like how chunky.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly
Robotnik
spherical.
is.
Well, and also this is the era when Sonic was chunky as well.
It's the best stuff, man. Like the era of like sloppy gut Mario, like Mario with the cape with my physique is my Mario.
Oh man,
it's so good.
Not this nonsense we have now. Yeah,
I cannot believe they made Mario skinny. I hate it so much. And then they made Sonic really skinny as well. Like when you get the 3D ones, like he ends up having legs and knees and shit.
Yeah, well, they made it like with Sonic Adventure, they made him into this like weird little like curvilinear contorted nightmare. Basically, they said, "What if Frank Gehry designed this hedgehog?"
They're constantly Balan Wonderlanding Sonic. And it's just like, no, bring back chunky little mascots.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want kids to get all like into the food pyramid, and eating 12 carbs a day. And that's why they don't make it chunky.
I don't know. You have to figure out what you do.
Here's the thing. Little chubby things are cuter.
Yeah.
Like it is always going to be cuter to be paunchy.
Yeah. It reminds me of babies. Okay.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10. Look at their rumbly tumbly tummies. There's nothing cute about a skinny mascot.
No.
And if you're listening to this and you're skinny and you think I'm body shaming you,
no,
you get to not be a mascot.
Yeah.
You've won the traditional beauty races. You're golden.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about specifically for animal mascots and plumber mascots.
And Mega Man.
Yeah, and Mega Man's like sloppy gut, like when you do this tornado spin, and you get to see the rare side thing where it's just like his huge sloppy beer gut. Like, God, I love Fat Mega Man.
And we're gonna bring in Little Mac, although he is svelte, he does have the Bertha hips,
dude. Yeah, well, and he lost them when they did the Wii version. Like the skinification of all of these mascots fucking sucks, man. I just they're so much cuter.
Yeah,
I think like NES Little Mac is not that cute. I think he just looks like he just looks weird
eyes.
To me. Yeah, his beady little eyes and his tiny little, tiny little feet. But the in general, like skinny Sonic, miss me with that.
Yeah, but you delivered the number of hits that you need to the laser pod, and then Robotnik escapes. He runs over to his rocket. It seems like he's going to get away, but Tails comes along. he managed to repair the tornado, and he flies up just close enough for Sonic to jump up and grab onto this, and survive exiting the atmosphere to go to the Death Egg, which is just the Death Star, but it's Eggman.
Yep. And it's just 2 bosses.
Yep.
No rings. So I would have been very frustrated playing this without save states.
I definitely did. I definitely remember beating this game.
Yeah. And you fight, the first thing you fight is Mecha Sonic here, which is a mechanical Sonic the Hedgehog. Now Eggman's thinking. And he kind of does Sonic moves. It's not quite a mirror match, like a Dark Link.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. he runs back and forth either side of the screen, either doing an arcing jump or jetting, and then he'll launch out spikes radially.
Yeah.
Not too hard.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
You have to be careful when you jump on him because his spines will like do like this little chainsaw motion. If he's standing still, it's kind of, I like how shitty this thing is. First
Super
off,
shitty.
Yeah, this is chonky. Like in a real like stiff kind of way. It's real like, you just look inside, there's nothing in it. See, Homer, that's why your robot didn't work. There needs to be stuff inside of it. But like he doesn't run. He's got like rockets, like rocket sled, like rocket skates where he goes back and forth, and then he'll do the launch as the spines. It's real pattern based what he does here. So if you know what order he's going to do things in, you can just dispatch him immediately. Only to be outrun by Dr. Robotnik as he goes to get to his mecha.
Yep, which is also chunky. Mm-hmm. When it comes to mechs, like I have a reputation for hating mechs. I really just don't like the svelte mechs. Give me a big fat robot. Mm-hmm. Like I'm into it.
Yeah.
And if I were Dr. Robotnik, I would definitely build a robot in my own image.
Oh, of course.
Like I'm not going to make this like sexy model robot.
No,
I'd make one that looks like a giant me.
Mm-hmm.
Or one that looks like Krang's robot body.
Of course. Yeah.
Just because that's great. So he's big and clumsy, kind of walks back and forth. He can launch his little spike arms at you and shoot rockets at you. You have to wait for him to bend over to smack him.
Yeah. It's
not too hard. Actually.
It's possible to jump up and smack him, like when he's standing upright, but the chances of you hitting the spike hands are really high. You just want to wait for him to do like a little bend over before he does a jump to hit him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not too hard.
Yeah.
I didn't think. Again, I was using save states, like not between every hit, but
anybody who plays this from this day forward is going to be playing with either save states or the rewind. I play this on the Sega Genesis collection, and that has a rewind on it, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you kill him, and he's a load-bearing boss. The death egg starts to explode. Sonic jumps off, goodbye cruel world, but Tails manages to grab him with the plane, and you fly off with a bunch of birds around you, and that's the end of the game canonically. Mm-hmm. But there is a special ending in the 2013 version.
Yeah. Taxman connected this more directly to Sonic 3. You and the Chaos Emeralds descend and land on Angel Island, the setting for the floating continent that is the setting for Sonic 3. And as you land, you see some eyes kind of peering out of a bush that is Knuckles looking at you, kind of recreating the American box art for Sonic 3, which is neat.
Yeah. Connecting the plot, if you're playing these games for the plot.
You weirdo.
Which you are. Yeah, and that's Sonic 2.
Yeah.
A game that I think is fun to spend time in, is really cute. It's in the WAF group of games that I think that if they were longer or more rigorous would wear out their welcome.
Yeah.
But as is, I'm fine. This is fun.
I love the retro game compilation, like even more so than the virtual console release, because, just to talk about that Sega Genesis collection that's on Switch right now, the collection of games in that is not especially good. There's some glaring holes in it, but like it's real fun to not really feel like you are invested in any of them, and is presented as like a shelf. Like if you're like over at a friend's house, like cat sitting or whatever, and said, "Yeah, play the Sega if you would like to," and just to sample, just to graze across these. I love that experience quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And that I think is going to be like the great way to do this. Either that or the mini consoles as kind of the same kind of use case for there. Yeah. And that's where Sonic 2 I think is really going to sing for a modern audience. But save states are non-negotiable, I think.
To me, it's a thing also where like this works just fine if you poke at it.
Yeah.
I'm going to poke at this and play the first few levels. Mm-hmm. And then if you get frustrated, I give you permission to be like, this is archaic. I'm good.
Yeah.
And you're still getting some joy out of it because it's not like back in the day where you spent $70 on it or whatever, $60 on it. You likely already have this or, got it for almost nothing. So like, just poke at it and get your fun and then get out.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly reasonable for this bad boy.
Of course.
We've done the good Sonic games.
We have.
That are old.
Yeah. Minus Sonic CD, but I think that's close enough to this that I'm not necessarily clamoring for it. Maybe in another 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. The 20-year anniversary when we do the 40-year-old Sonic CD. Man, the idea of doing 40-year-old games on this thing is fucking wild.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be like what we do now if we did something like Wasteland 1, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not, that's later than that. And also I'm not chomping at the bit to do that because like that I'm so in the pocket for that. And I also find that really hostile and hard to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Christ. Old show.
Yeah.
Thanks. This is a vanity pick from Cole.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that early. Thank you, Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gwen, for the theme song. And thank you to everybody who's listened to us for 10 years.
Yeah. This is the episode that most directly coincides. Make sure that you tell Gary happy birthday because his birthday will be around here. The anniversary of the show is also Gary's birthday, which is a
first
nice
episode that came out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and we'll do we'll do a longer discussion of 10 years of WoF on the Dispatch episode, but we also want to mark the occasion here. This has been fun, both a fun episode and fun show, and will continue to be a fun show.
Yeah, I think it's great that this is around the 10-year anniversary, so we're not doing Singularity for the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah,
not because I have anything in Singularity, but what a weird pick.
That would be strange. Yeah.
So the game that I had never heard of.
That game that is most well known for just the thing that everybody says about it is like, oh, not enough people play that or talk about it.
Yeah. So if you have things to say about Sonic 2, Singularity, or Darkest Dungeon, Duckfeed.tv/contact by the 15th of September is your move. And if you have anything to say about October's games, the 15th of October is your move.
Yeah.
And those games are Echo,
not
Silent
the
Hill.
Not the Dolphin.
Was it? Oh yeah, not the Dolphin.
Yeah.
Echo, Silent Hill 1, and Resident Evil 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll have November's games announced with the Dispatch episode here coming up. We've got a fun rest of the year planned.
I'm way into the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So
if you have anything to say it to our face or say it in a review. We would like to. Sorry, I had to save that. I didn't want to do a retake. No markers.
I appreciate it.
Yes, we would like to hear it. You can leave a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or whichever place you get this. If it's a directory that allows reviews, it will help us if you do that. And also tell some friends. And go to patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv. Of course, that helps us make this show, put the amount of time into it that we are able to. We are very grateful for all of your support.
Absolutely. Yeah. Until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Watch out for decades.